Oh, it looks like it's streaming live now.
Okay, cool.
Uh-oh.
It says it's setting.
Oh, it is.
Cool. Oh, it is? Okay, cool. Hello, then.
I think we're live.
All right. Let's see here. Awesome, cool. Hello. All right, there you go. Now I'm back. Okay, so hello everybody. We're here today with more Writers with Wine, which is really fun. We all have our wine glass, so cheers. Yay! I had an iced tea, so I have a full glass right now. So we're all here today just to kind of chat about writing because it sucks because we're all stuck and at home and there's nothing to do. So why not drink wine and talk about books? I'm Tara Gilboy, and I'm the author of Unwritten, and then the sequel Rewritten, which just came out in April. And it's about, Unwritten is about a girl named Gracie who finds out she was a character from a storybook whose parents brought her into the real world as a baby to save her life because they told her she was supposed to die at the end of her story. And she wants to find out what happens to her in the story. So she goes in search of her author to try to find out. And that's when all kinds of bad things happen to her. So that's kind of that book in a nutshell. Michelle, did you want to go ahead and introduce your book?
Sure. Yeah. So I also had a book come out this spring. This one, My Long List of Impossible Things. Unfortunate that it came out just when the pandemic hit. So there went my launch. But so that book is set in Germany just when World War II is coming to an end and the Soviets are invading. And it's about a 16-year-old girl and her sister and her mother who get kicked out of their house by the Soviets and are on a journey to a town pretty far away where they have distant relatives who they're hoping are going to help them out. And then all sorts of bad things happen to them as well. And I won't say any of them because I'll ruin the story, but it's basically about how Katya sort of has to try to put her life back together again and also try to understand her country that she thought she knew and realized she has a lot of questions about what happened. So that's what it's about. How about you, Lisa?
Oh my gosh, that sounds so good. So my book is, it's Ollie Oxley and the Ghost. And it is about a boy named Ollie, and he moves to a new town and he befriends a ghost, and the two of them go on a little adventure together. They search for lost gold and take down the school bully, and Ollie runs for class president. So they have all these little adventures together, and then of course they look for gold. So anyway, that's Ollie Oxley and the Ghost.
Yay. And I'm lucky I've read both of your guys' books and I love both of them. I was just thinking actually about your book the other day, Lisa, because I love ghost stories in the summer. I always try to write ghost stories. So, and you have a ghost and mystery and there's history there. So it's like all my favorite things. And I was talking about yours in my class the other day, actually, Michelle, because we were talking about drafting, and I always talk about your book because I remember what a process it was and how many drafts you did. And yeah, so I always tell my students that about it's like an inspiring story. So
I don't think it's like a cautionary tale, actually. Don't write novels. This is what it's like.
Well, no, because it was interesting because I think your first or your last book that came out, The House of 1,000 Eyes, I remember seemed to go so quickly.
It did, comparatively. Yes.
Yeah, and then this one. So it's always, every book is different, right? So
that is absolutely true. I have a theory though about 1,000 Eyes because I think that it went quickly and easily because I was procrastinating working on this one. So it was always a treat to be working on 1,000 Eyes because it was like misbehaving a little bit because I knew I should have been working on a long list and I didn't feel like it. So
that reminds me, I had one of my teachers, Sarah Aronson, used to use an example of like, she would call it like your relationship. Maybe I told this story before. Your relationship manuscript. That's like the manuscript that you're supposed to be working on. And then there's like the slutty manuscript that's in the drawer that's like fallen to you. And it's like, work on me. And you're like, no, I'm supposed to be with this relationship manuscript.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's great.
What about you, Lisa? How many drafts did you go through with yours? Was that
Oh my God. You know what? That is such a good question. It was a zillion. You know, when I first started writing Ollie, I'd never written anything before. I mean, I hadn't even written a poem. So it just is one of those things where I was like, oh, I'm going to write this story. I'm going to get it published. And I had no idea what I was doing. And so I just sat down and started writing and figured it out. But it took me like 6 years. So there's a lot of drafts in there. And it's a lot. I can't even count for you. I don't even know. It was just, I was constantly adding to it, editing it. It was just, I don't have a very good writing style. I'm just going to put it right out there.
Oh, but you know what? I think that's par for the course. Like I because the first couple of novels I wrote, they never got published. And mainly because like I wrote them and I rewrote them like a couple of times. And I thought, okay, they're ready. I'm going to send them out. And I mean, I feel like if you can't count the number of drafts that you've done, then that's probably the right amount of drafts,
Oh, see, I love you already. Because then I excelled at that.
Yes. Well, I mean, we all do. Like, how many drafts did you do, Tara? Did you do like 1,000? I mean,
a lot. Like, if I look through my old like files on my computer, like writing unwritten, it's like they're labeled like 1 through like 25. But like each one of those wasn't just like it was one draft. It was like I did multiple drafts on each one. So like I don't even know. I just lost track.
Exactly. But you know what? Because I heard a story about John Green once, and this is going to make you guys feel 100 times better. Because you guys all know who John Green is, right? Okay, so he's got all these best-selling novels and you think he's a pro and everything. So he says that, first of all, he writes a first draft. He throws out 90% of it. And then he starts numbering his drafts as they change. And for each of his novels that you'd like, The Fault in Our Stars and Looking for Alaska and all of these, the numbers are in the hundreds of the numbers of drafts that he does. So it's not just us. It's like, this is the way it's done. And I mean, like, because for a long time, I thought it was just me. I thought, oh my God, like, what's wrong with me? Everybody else can write a novel, like just sit down and do it. And here I am struggling through like countless drafts. I can't get it right. But no, that's the process. That's for everybody.
There's some people that can just sit down and like rip out a book. Kim Ventrella, I'm in part of this group. It's called Spooky Middle Grade. I was doing like a group chat, like with a classroom with her and Jonathan Rosen. And one of the kids asked, how long does it take you to write a book? And, Jonathan Rosen's like, oh, years, da, da, da. And I'm like, oh, well, this took me 6 years. And she's like, well, my average is like 2 weeks to draft and write a book. I'm like, what? Yeah.
Like for a first draft, yeah, maybe. But then 2 years to revise it, right? I mean,
she's got books coming out like this. I mean, she's got 2 books coming out like this year. And I was just, Jonathan and I are both, our mouths just dropped open. And I'm just like, yeah, I can't even look at you the same way ever again.
You're like, I don't like you anymore.
Exactly. We're not friends.
She's an overachiever.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I always told myself, because like when I wrote Unwritten, it took me like 3 years. It was like a year to write and then 2 to revise. And so when I had the contract for Rewritten, I had like, it was somewhere between like 6 and 9 months, to write it. And I was like, I have to write this thing in like a month because I'm going to need that entire time to revise, just because my drafts are so bad. I mean, they're bad.
I don't think it's that they're so bad. It's that you have to figure out what you're doing. Like, even if you have an outline, and like you work from an outline, don't you, Tara? Or
kind of, yes, but it changes as I go.
Okay. And do you, Lisa?
The first, with Ollie, no. No. I'm working on a new middle grade, and I kind of had an outline, like I always know the beginning and the end, and I know like the major plot points throughout the story, but that's it. It's like a very broad. It's a broad
outline in my book. That's an outline.
Okay, yeah. So then I kind of have a broad. I have a synopsis and everything already, like, which is crazy. I wrote a synopsis after the fact with Ollie Oxley, so I feel like I learned a lot from the first one. So I do have like kind of an overview. So,
I think that, I mean, in my opinion, that's all you need. Like, I know there are people who do scene by scene outlines. I cannot do that. I tried doing that once and it was just an absolute failure. It was awful. So
that's called writing a book.
Well, kind of, yeah, right? Like, why write the book afterwards? Like, all the
outline is the whole thing.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah. So like I do it like you. Like I know the beginning and the end. I have sort of a synopsis. I have the major plot points, and that's enough for me. But
Yeah.
I feel like if you have that, and even with that, your first draft is still kind of an exploratory thing.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily follow what you've set out, and things change, and you figure out what story you're really telling. So I mean, at least that's my process. I don't generally end up with the book that I intended.
Yeah. Ooh, see, this is all reassuring. I love it. This is all good for me. Forget anybody else who's listening. This is all about me at this point. It's like I need book therapy.
Oh, I like that. If we can always rename Writers with Wine book therapy.
Book therapy, yes.
Yeah.
I think that's a good beginning. Because when you said, when I was tweeting out today, you're like, Writers with Wine. I'm like, well, that's kind of every night. Like, I'm a writer with wine every night. I don't know what's going on with you.
I'm not always so classy with the wine. Sometimes I go cheap. It's it's the beer. It's the
Writers with beer. That's fair.
Beer that works.
We can call it Books and Brew.
Yes, I like it. And you own a brewery too, right? So
we do own a brewery. Yeah. And you know what's so funny? I'm allergic to gluten, so I've never had any of my husband's beer.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
no, it smells good. Like I'll smell it and go, yeah.
Oh man.
I know. I'm never at the brewery. I'm like, nobody even knows who I am really, because it's like, why go in there? I can't drink.
I remember you saying one time that you were happy at the brewery because then you got the house alone to write. So
I know. My husband might be listening.
No, I'm curious. So, like, what are you guys doing? Because, like, I know, like, right now, I've been really struggling, like, having a hard time, like, writing every day. And I've been getting better, like, getting back into it. But, like, what do you guys do? Do you have, like, a word count? Or, like, I know we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but.
If I'm drafting a first draft, I have a word count. Yeah, that keeps me on track. I find that's the way that I get it done. Because we were talking a little bit before we went live about the issue of editing as you go, and how that slows you down and whatever. And I mean, I edit as I go too. But I find like that's my way of getting started in the day. Like I reread whatever I had written the day before. So if you call that editing as you go, I mean, it's just sort of my way of getting my mind back into the groove of the story. But I find that if I have a daily word count, it really forces me to sit down and get the work done, because like I don't want to end my day and like think, oh, like I'm supposed to do whatever 2,000 words and I only got like 800 and like what happened, sort of thing, So yeah, I feel like that it keeps me on task. It keeps me from being distracted. But that only works for a first draft. And then what? Then what do you do?
See, I like revising and going back in and working it. It's like getting the story down. It's painful, but then it's like, I love going in and tinkering and figuring things out. And, so if you could do my book for,
let's share, because honestly, I like the first draft. I find the first draft is so fun, because it's such creative work, and you're just forcing yourself forward. And I mean, the other thing too, like Tara, were you in Gail's class with me? You were in one of Gail's classes with me, right?
Yeah, I was in her summer class with you.
Okay, so did you take her novel writing class?
Yeah, I did.
So we had this great professor at UBC, Gail Anderson Dargatz, who's also a wonderful author. And she gave us a motto, because we had like quite a lot of stuff to write in that class. And, her concern was that, you get sort of perfectionist, and you're trying to make it seem so good, and then you're not moving forward, which is usually the problem with the first draft. And so her motto for the class was to write crap. And I feel like that really frees you from the concern of it having to be perfect, because it's not going to be perfect. We all know that it's going to go through 9,000 drafts anyhow. So why worry about it being perfect? That's not going to happen, right? So if you just allow yourself to write crap, which it almost never is either, by the way, like you think it's going to be crap, but in fact, when you read it afterwards, you find out that it's really not that bad. But I think it just sort of frees you to get the work done, and then you're not thinking so much about, whether it's good enough or any kind of judgment. I mean, it does, if you free yourself from that, it just makes it so much easier.
Right. might get a Post-it note and put that up on my computer.
Yeah, it's a good thing to follow. It certainly works for me. It's like, okay,
It's my new motto.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Exactly.
It's very free. Like, but I think I'm always like kind of like a grass is always greener person. Like when I'm drafting, I wish I was revising. And then when I'm revising, I wish that I was drafting. But like, I do go into like a different headspace because like when I'm just writing my first drafts, I can only write for like an hour, maybe 2 hours at a time. Or I'm just brain dead. But like when I'm revising, I can sit for 8-10 hours and just lose track of time and just, there's like that addictive quality to it, I think, for me anyways. But
well, it's almost compulsive. Like you're going through it and you're like looking at words that you can cut and you're trying to fine tune everything and you're just like, it's kind of fun. It's almost weird. It's like just picking at something and you're going through it over and over and over again.
I feel like it takes a certain personality to enjoy that sort of thing. Because I agree. I mean, it is very rewarding, but I also think there's something to like the amount of time that you spend at it in one shot, because like a novel is a lot to keep in your head. And I make notes, of course, but I also have a lot of it in my head. And if I walk away for, I don't know, like a week or something and then come back to it, I basically have to almost start over in terms of like rereading from the beginning and reminding myself of what was going on and what were my concerns and what are the hanging threads. And if you're in it and working on it every day for a certain number of hours per day, you have that, you have that accessible in your head. You're not sort of looking for it and trying to figure out, oh, where was I and what was I going to do with this character? And so yeah, I think it's good to have that continuity.
Well, what times of day do you guys write? Like, because I know me, if I don't write in the morning, like it's not going to happen. Like, do you guys have a certain like time of day or like writing quirks or anything?
Oh, morning for me too. Absolutely. First thing, like coffee, feed the cat, sit down and write. Yeah.
Well, so now I've just started writing again. Like I took a little bit of a break and you know what? I tend to like do the same thing. I get the coffee, do my, feed the dogs, do all that. I tend to go on Twitter and like do the, I go around the horn on all the social media and see if there's anybody I need to reply to. And then I sit down and I start writing. And, but I'll come back periodically through the day if I think of something. But yeah, it's generally in the morning.
Yeah, I find I have the most courage in the morning. Usually I need courage, especially if I'm rewriting and I know that it's going to be something that, it's going to be hard. And I have to some of the things that I'm working on in my novel right now, it's like requires me to with one change with a novel, basically it changes everything. So you have to go through and follow the thread to make sure that you've got it all consistent. So it's like, it seems like an insurmountable task. Except first thing in the morning, I can do it. I can sit down and think, okay, I have my courage. I can get it done. But if I wait until later in the day, I'm tired and it won't happen. So
yeah,
you have to hit that magic spot. For me, it was like always really early in the morning, and like now it's like either with teaching or like I've been staying up too late playing online Scrabble, and so I need to just get up early and write. Like I keep
online Scrabble, you wild girl.
I know,
oh isn't it? Gosh.
I know, yeah. So I need to just actually go to bed. And
are you breaking out like naughty words or anything?
I mean, I have. I mean, sometimes you have to. And then you're like, man, I am classy right now. I am really classy.
Online Scrabble.
I'll send you the link later. We can play.
No, do not send the link.
Okay. I don't even know if I should say, but I've had some wine. So I play, it's word cookies where it's this stupid app and I'm addicted to it. So I don't know why I'm so judging you. I think it's reflecting back or something because I play word cookies all the time and it's kind of like Scrabble. And so, but I play it by myself. So that's even, are you playing with friends?
I am, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, at least you have friends. So I'm just playing word cookies with myself at 2 a.m. when I can't sleep.
I was doing crosswords for a while and I cut myself off. I thought, no, this is enough. I cannot. So I cut myself off.
Okay, so apparently it's like a weird writer thing that we get too addicted to these letter word games.
It seems to be, yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, there are worse things. I mean, there are worse addictions.
There are worse things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of weird things, do you guys have any like weird writing quirk things that you do?
You know what's funny, because we were talking about the questions that we were going to go through, and I saw that one about quirks, and I thought, I don't have any quirks.
Mhm.
And then I thought, wait a minute, my cow cup. So I brought it.
Oh, you did.
This is my cow cup. This is my quirk. Anybody has coffee in my cow cup besides me, there's trouble. So
Really?
oh, absolutely. No, the coffee, the cup is mine, and I have to have my coffee in that cup first thing in the morning when I sit down to write. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have any. Especially
I bet you do.
You probably
I can't think of anything. I'm looking around at my weird cramped little desk in my weird space, and I've just got books, and I'm trying to think if I have any quirks. No, I don't. I do. Maybe I do. I just can't think of them. What about you, Tara?
Well, I think mine I get because there's something like sometimes writing feels really scary to me. So I like to, one of my quirks is I like to write in purple pens on a legal pad in my pajamas in my bed. So like, it's a weird thing, but then it doesn't feel like it's cozy then, right? I don't know. I can't sit at a desk. It's so great when I see people's like writing desks, but there's no way. I'm writing like every book either in my bed or on my couch. Like I can
really. Are all your first drafts longhand?
No. Rewritten was not. Unwritten was my first novel that I wrote that I didn't publish was longhand, and then the one I'm working on now I'm writing longhand. Just to get back into it. But yeah, rewritten was not. I did that one my draft on the computer.
No. Oh my gosh.
I mean, eventually I'll go to the computer, I'm sure. I think, by the time I get to like the halfway point, I'm sure I'll be writing it on the laptop.
That's like double entry. Like you have to sit there and like.
But I revise as I do it. Yes. So it never makes its way into the computer the way it looks in my notebook.
Yeah, it's a great process. I find like with Longlist, I had it like because I had so many drafts, it was ridiculous. And I finally reached the point where I felt like the writing was going to be better if I did it longhand. So I had sort of whatever draft number 105 or something on the computer, and I would start like sort of basically transcribing it longhand, and then I would like let it go wherever it was going to go. And I found that actually I did that for most of that book, and I think it was probably a good thing. Because I had so much trouble with that book. I mean, it was like wrestling snakes the entire time. It was just awful. So, but Thousand Eyes was all on the computer. I don't think I did any of it longhand. So
it's interesting because I think the voice on those two books is a little different too. And I've noticed my voice is different when I write longhand versus on the computer. So
I think so. Yeah, I think it is.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not going to try that, but that's interesting.
Hey, you were working on a chapter book series, right? You could do your chapter book. It wouldn't be quite as much typing, less word count.
I know. That's true. Yeah, my chapter book is only they're like 5,000 words. So, but anyway, yeah, that one's on submission. We'll see about that.
That was the one about the dog, right? I don't know. Am I allowed to talk about it? I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it.
It'll probably never see the light of day. So yeah, so a few years ago, I'm like a little pug. I love pugs. And I had my pug, Hank, and he died. And I was heartbroken. And so I wrote a chapter book series or a chapter book about a crime-solving pug. And his sidekick is a goldfish. And they solve crimes in Critter City.
That's so cute.
Right? And it's so cute. No one's bought it, but it is cute. And I can tell you, I've read it to my critique partners after they've had wine, and they laugh their asses off.
After they've had wine, okay.
Oh, so after this, we'll drink more wine. You're going to read aloud.
And you can read the chapter book to us. We'll love it.
I think it's like really funny and I love it, but I'm sensing that it's not being loved right now.
You just have to find the right person. I don't know. Like I think quirky things like that are awesome. But you have to hit that right person who has the same sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's out there right now, but he's on his second round. So we're on round 2 of submissions. And so I made some changes after the first round because the humor was too sophisticated.
Oh, okay. For the age. Yeah.
And so I get it. you know, because I'm used to writing middle grade. So I kind of like brought it down a little bit and took out what I thought were the funniest parts and that my drunk friends thought were funny too. So I like read it now and I'm like, it's not as funny.
See, I should share with you guys. I have a book that I wrote that's really funny when drunk people read it too. And it's a picture book that's in emails and it's like recipes. It's like the villains creating recipes. And
I've seen the You do not have to be drunk to enjoy that book. That book is great. I
keep trying to cook children. And it's so funny because like they're going to all eat the children. And then the editor keeps saying like, no, we can't cook children.
And you're like, that's such a bummer.
I know.
It's really funny.
It's really funny. I don't know why and nobody wanted to publish that.
I know. It's sad. This may be one of those books like that we don't ever see.
Yeah.
We can get my little crime-solving pug and your character together, and they can run off and, you know, have a glass of wine together.
It'll be like our anthology. What about Michelle? Do you have any? Well, you wrote that sweet picture book. Your picture book is sweet. Do you have any?
I have another picture book that's not as sweet, and I also like think it's really funny too. But my agent is trying to sell it, and she loves it also, but she has not been able to sell it. So I don't know if it was. I changed their names. It was. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember the name. It was so long ago that I wrote it. Anyways, what was it? Antivirus and antifreeze, but that's not who they are now. I've changed the names because she felt that
was a picture book.
Yeah, and they're like really mean aunties, and they like a kid wanders into their garden and then they tie him up and they try to get rid of him and stuff. And I thought it was hilarious.
Oh my god, I would buy that, but I don't know if I'd read it to a kid.
Well, she made me change the name. I felt the names were like the best part of it. But I don't even remember now what I changed the names to because it was a long time ago anyways that I did it. But anyways, she hasn't been able to sell it. So, which is so sad because I thought it was so funny.
Right?
Maybe we can make like a collection of like our humor writing and we could just we'll just self-publish it as like an anthology of all of our I
want that book so bad.
I know.
Oh my god, please sell it.
Oh gosh. Well, and so anyways, it brings up an interesting question though, of where we get our ideas. Like where do you, I mean, you could, so your idea for Hank, I guess, came from the fact that you had the pug.
Yeah.
But like, where did the goldfish come from?
You know what? I was just trying to come up with something so completely different. Like, you know, I have this pug that's solving crimes, and what would be the most outlandish, you know, sidekick for him to have? And so he has this goldfish who's really the brains in the operation, even though it's so funny. Oh my god. Sorry. So the original title was Bumble and Beans is the goldfish. And then I found out that someplace we submitted it to, I won't name them, but they had another book coming out at this, you know, they had like Bumble and Bee coming out. And I'm like, oh my God, we have to change the name. So I had to change the name, and it doesn't feel like the same character to me anymore, you know, because it was always Detective Bumble, and he was kind of like a, you know, Columbo kind of dog, like, trying to solve the mystery. And then, you know, the goldfish was always like the, you know, wiseacre, like, you know, helping him out.
I love that book already. I'm like, it just sounds amazing.
It's so cute. Yeah, it hasn't sold. I think I was telling, I emailed my critique partner, and I'm like, I think this one's dead in the water. And I'm like, it's time for me. It's dead in the goldfish bowl. I mean,
it's floating. No, that's all right.
He's floating on the top. I have to flush him. It's gone. So anyway, he's with your book. He's with your picture book someplace, hanging out with an editor. And the editor is like, what's up with these writers?
Yeah, it's so sad. I mean, I've moved on, right? If it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell. But you know, it just seemed like such a good idea. I don't know.
It was. It was.
I think so.
You just need the right fit, right? Like, it's just,
Well, that's it. And so much of it is about that. Hey, finding the right person. And I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to that,
Yeah.
Crazy.
What are you working on right now, Tara?
I am working on a story that I was working on it before I sold Rewritten. And so I had put it away, and then I wrote Rewritten, and then I decided to get it back out again. So when it started, it's kind of like a mermaid story. I was calling it Emily Winsnap meets Sarah Plainenthal, because it's like a mermaid story, but it takes place in like the early 1900s, and there's this historical element. But now I'm redoing it because I really wanted to add some spooky stuff. So now it got a little ghostly. Well, Michelle, you saw part of it. Yeah. So it got a little ghostly now, and I like it so much better. I'm so much more excited about it now.
Oh,
so
that's good.
yeah.
It's amazing how one little change it can really sort of revitalize a manuscript. It's great.
Yeah, well, it just got me excited about it again, I think, because it just needed some little spark. And so, yeah.
Ghost stories are good.
I like ghost stories. Yeah, you wrote it. You wrote a ghost story. Yeah. Well, Michelle, what are you working on? Because I know I've read your draft of your stuff that you're working on, but are you working on anything else too, or?
Oh no, this consumes everything. Yeah, so I'm working on a book called The Ministry of Sleep, and basically it's a futuristic novel about Canada, about 50 years in the future, where there's been environmental catastrophe and the world has basically sort of crashed and burned, and is now being revitalized with something called the sleep program. And so basically what it is that in order for the world to manage its limited resources, they've created this program where at any time of the year, half the population is sleeping in these underground chambers. So that's the situation. And then it involves, like, it's from the point of view of a doctor, and she basically wakes up from her sleep cycle only to discover, well, actually I better not say too much about it. But anyways, there's murder. And she is going to be framed for it. And she so she basically has to solve it, or else she's going down. And if she's not framed, she's going to get killed. So like there's a lot of bad things that are happening. So she has to solve this murder before very bad things happen to her. So, and then the sleep program is sort of part of the whole thing. So,
yeah. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Well, I hope
what's going on in your mind? That's what I want to know.
That is a really good question.
Let's talk about your childhood. Let's peel back the layers.
Yeah, right. No. That's why I write fiction.
I am like deeply concerned at this point. I'm writing stories about dogs and goldfish.
Right? I know. No, things are not looking good.
That's awesome.
Maybe that's why we get along so well, Michelle. I was just realizing it. Like the first time I met Lisa, I remember I was like, oh, let me tell you about my murder case.
Oh, that's right. That is right. I totally forgot about that. And you know what? We should give a shout out to Beth McMullen. Beth McMullen. She was with us. And yeah. We walked away and I'm like, she's crazy.
But I mean, like, how much trouble would you get in for your search history? Like my search history, like I'd be like maybe going to jail. Like it would be very bad. Like the things I've looked up are really like very questionable.
It's only bad, Michelle, if you act out on it.
Fair. But it all ends up in my book. So.
And then it'll really happen, and they'll be like,
oh yeah, she planned it all along.
I remember one time I was writing this scene, and I actually published this story like a long time ago, and I think the magazine that I published it in is gone now, but there was an autopsy scene, and I remember doing a Google search like, what's a body like when it's dead? And like I'm doing like all this stuff, and I'm like, wow, I wonder if the FBI is like following me now.
My searches are all like that. Like, what does a dead body smell like, and what does it look like, and I mean, there's all, and how do you like rig a car so that like it crashes? It's like, oh my God.
That is happening over at my end.
You're working on middle grade, so hopefully you don't have how does a dead body smell in yours, Lisa?
No. I'm trying to think. No, I'm trying to think like the weirdest thing I've like Google searched lately. I think, like, how many are there ghosts in my town, or like, to see how many, hits would pop up, but no, I don't look about, stinky bodies and stuff like that. Except unless they're like 7th grade boys, then that's as close as I get to stinky bodies.
This morning I was looking up gang tattoos.
What are they now?
Oh, there's all sorts. So yeah, because I wanted to have like a guy standing in front of a bar with like gang tattoos, but there's so many gang tattoos that it's no, I couldn't narrow it down, so it didn't work out.
Well, at least if yours takes place in the future, you can make up your own gang tattoo.
That's true. I could. Yeah.
You could.
It just wasn't important enough, so I thought, okay, I'm just gonna leave it. It's fine. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's funny how much time you can waste doing that, right? Like sometimes I have to stop myself and I'll just draw like a blank in my manuscript and I'll be like, look up later, I'll write, because it's like, otherwise I'll get distracted and I'll be writing and then I'll spend 2 hours looking up a gang tattoo.
Oh, you know what? That's such a good idea to do that, because that's exactly what happened. I was writing along and I thought, oh, gang tattoos. And down you go, right down the rabbit hole. And next thing you know, an hour has passed and you still don't have a gang tattoo. And it doesn't even really matter whether you have one or not. And you've wasted an hour. So yeah.
I do that with names. Like I can't, like just today I was writing a scene and I needed a name of a girl that gets thrown up on. And I was just like, ooh, what's a good name? And I literally I'm like, okay, just put like a placeholder there. Just don't even worry about the name. And I'm like, no, I need to know the name, even though she's never coming back in the story ever again. I need a really good name. So then I go off on like names for girls, and I'm on like baby websites. I'm like, oh, look, that's a good name.
And then your husband walks in and you're looking at like baby names, right?
Right. Well, no, I've spent 45 minutes on the name of an inconsequential character that means nothing. She just got thrown up on. That was it. That's her storyline.
Yeah.
So
I did that today too. I was looking up the name of strip clubs and I thought, what would be a great name for a strip club? And there you go, right? Then you get an idea of what's that?
Centerfolds. We have one in my town.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's a great one.
Here you go. Wait, hold on. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm trying to remember, there was a strip club back in Wisconsin where I'm from, and I forget, it was called something like Exotic Flowers or something like that. I can't remember, but my grandma went there because she thought it was a flower shop.
Oh my God, that's
great. She did not.
She wanted to buy plants.
Oh, surprise.
Okay, you guys, I don't know if anyone's watching this, but at this point, this is all good stuff.
It is. I should go look and see I'll go look and see if anybody has questions, because I just realized.
Oh, good idea. Yeah.
We said, hey,
this might be the time when we stop talking, right?
And now we're just talking about strip clubs. And so
it's falling apart.
Let's go to our event. Let's see.
Michelle, like, you're my new bestie, besides Tara, I mean. And then everyone else I know.
I know. See, we don't even need an audience. We're
entertaining each other. That's right. It's great.
This is like the one I've had all week. So I'm like,
is there any questions?
I've not seen anybody. So if anybody has questions, let me see. If anybody has questions, post them. Even if there's something as silly as, did you hide the bodies? I'm just saying.
Or what I'm drinking.
Oh, what I'm drinking.
Bottle. It's a tiny little one though. It's not like the full size, but I brought it with me.
I filled my glass all the way to the top, but I left my bottle in the other room, and I should.
I brought my bottle. I knew I was going to need it.
Yeah, I wasn't. Look at you, Tara.
I was like texting my
unprepared.
The last time I did it, I was texting my daughter and I'm like, can you bring me the wine bottle? Like, I can't.
You were?
Right. Can you come hand me the wine bottle?
That's awesome.
All on the floor. I have like so my son doesn't come in the room. I have like a do not enter sign on the door. And so, because usually I can't tell you how many times he's popped in, like when I'm like Zooming with people, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, and here's my son. He's making a grand entrance.
So have you had to work with your kids home right now? Are they home from school?
You know what? Okay, so my son Ollie is 12, and so he is self-sufficient. He is, in his room playing on Xbox, and so it's not a hardship for me. You know what I mean? He's at that age where he's good. So, but it has been, I have my husband, but my husband's working, so it's been Ollie and me. Like, we were on lockdown for basically 2 months together, while all this is going on. And so we had our moments. I had my lockdown moment like 2 months in, or 2 weeks in. And we call it the pandemic meltdown. And because it's him and I. And he likes to reenact it and play me.
No. Oh, that's so mean.
He's like losing my mind. So anyway, but yeah, no, so he's good. He's 12. He's, stinky and in his room. And I listen in because it's all good information. Like, as I'm writing this new stuff, I'm like sitting there kind of listening at the door as he's playing. And I'm kind of bummed that he's out of school because there was so much material that was, because he just started middle school.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So he was like a wealth of information as I would eavesdrop in on conversations, or, is dropping off and watching what's going on at school and hearing, I'm like, oh my God, you're out of school. You need to go back to school. Mommy needs information.
I need material.
Go back to school.
It's interesting you say that, because I was on a Zoom conference a couple of days ago, and it was an editing conference about middle grade. And it was a couple of people from my publisher talking about middle grade fiction, and like what succeeds and what they're looking for. And one of the things they mentioned was how important it is to have a grasp on what middle grade kids sound like. And if you're not a parent of a middle grade, or like they said, like actually what they said was like teachers were really particularly good at that, because they were around these kids all the time. Of course, I mean, parents of middle grade age kids, it would be the same. But if you don't have that connection, it's sometimes hard to have the ear for what kids that age actually sound like.
I don't even know how you would, if I didn't have Ollie, because he's been age appropriate for almost a lot of what I've been writing. And especially going from transitioning from 5th grade to 6th grade and going into middle school. Oh my God, the material is just unfolding right in front of me, and I can just listening to the conversations and listening to what's happening and what's going on. I'm like, oh my God, this is because I'm working on a new middle grade, and it's all about a 5th grader transitioning into 6th grade, and there's that shock of being in middle school, because middle school is crazy, right? I mean, it's such a big transition for kids, and watching him go through it, and listening to his friends and conversations. Yeah, I don't even know, because if I were just writing based on my information, he'd sound like a valley girl. Right?
Well, sound like your version of what it might sound like, as opposed to what they actually sound like.
Right. Yeah. And so I just, having him, I'm like, dude, you need to go back to school. But he let me listen in one time on a Fortnite battle. And so I got to listen to all these kids talking, and it was awesome. No. And I can't, they're so, how they talk, they're not deep. I'm just to reassure everyone, they're not deep. They're not talking about anything, it's all just stupid stuff, and it's awesome, but it's so much fun to listen to them talk. So yeah. Anyway, I shouldn't talk about the fact that I spy on my child.
No, it's funny because I've given that one. Now I'm not able to because everybody's stuck at home, but I would give that as a writing exercise to my students sometimes when we were working on dialogue. I'd be like, go spy on people and eavesdrop and write it down. Because I remember seeing M.T. Anderson one time speak about writing his novels, and he wrote, Feed, which has, that sci-fi, and it's it starts we went to the moon totally sucked, and one of the best books of all time.
One of the best books of all time. Yes.
Yeah, I love him. But but then he also wrote the Octavian Nothing books, which take place in the 1770s, and so it's very formal, educated. It's hard to read. I'm I have a master's degree, and this is a YA, and I'm still kind of plugging away at it. Like, it's hard to read. But I remember him talking about when he was writing Feed, he would go to get the language right. He would go sit in like food courts at shopping malls and listen to people
that
talk.
makes total sense. Yeah.
And when he was writing Octavia Nothing, he was going through and he found all these old like love letters that like teenagers in the 1770s would write to each other.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Nothing but these letters and stuff from the 1700s. So I don't know, it was just interesting. It's different ways of spying, I think, to get the voice right. I don't know. That's always stuck with me.
Huh. That's very cool.
A lot of work, but I don't know. Yeah.
So now, Tara, have you sold your next book? Are you still you're working on it? Where are you? I want to read it.
Oh, okay. I will send it to you when I'm ready. When I need feedback. Yes. No, I'm working on it right now. I would like to pitch it. So I'm hoping to get like the first 3 chapters and a synopsis ready. Because I would like to pitch it, soon, within the next month or 2. So
ooh,
fingers crossed. I really like this one. I like this one. It's very, very different than Unwritten, and the language is very different. It has a different voice, but I think it's kind of spooky, and I don't know. I like it.
Fun.
Well, I've only read the opening, but I can vouch for it. It's great.
Oh, thank you. And I've read a lot of yours too, and it's every time I read a section of Michelle's what she's working on, I'm like, oh my god, just keep writing faster because I want to see what happens.
Well, don't worry, you'll be getting the whole thing fairly soon. So
I know, I'm looking forward to it. But Lisa, did you have a ghost in yours too? Your new one is it a ghost story?
I do. I'm writing another ghost story, and so this one's it's different. It's so in Ollie Oxley, the ghost is helping Ollie solve his problems, right? And so in this new book, there's a boy, and he's helping 3 ghosts solve their problems. And so it's kind of just like a switch up. And it's funny, it took me a while. I felt like I need to take a break and get his Ollie Oxley's voice out of my head. Do you know what I mean? It's like when I first started writing, it was like, oh my God, this sounds like Ollie Oxley all over again. It sounds like the same voice. And so it took me a while to kind of get it figured out. But it's another ghost story. It's the same kind of vibe where it's not super heavy, but I do have to come up with reasons why these 3 kids have died, which is kind of a bummer. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that so it's not too much of a, I don't want it to be serious. I want it to be funny, but also anyway. So it's really about him solving these 3 ghosts, resolve their issues so they can move on.
Interesting. So, it's an interesting thing that you bring up too about making another book different from the one that came before,
right?
Which is a challenge. And I guess Tara, because you were writing a series. I mean, that's its own challenge, right? Where you have sort of the continuity, and you're basically stuck with whatever you've already got out in the world in the first place. You can't change that, which I find really hard. I'm always in admiration of anybody who writes a series, because I feel like standalone books, at least you've closed that door, and whatever decisions you made, they're done, and it doesn't matter, right? But when you're writing a series, you have to be thinking about this. I mean, the whole arc, I guess, of it.
Right.
Do you intend to write another one after Rewritten?
I mean, I would like to, and I've started one, and I've worked on it, and it's, it's interesting because I know what I want to happen. Physically, there's a lot of things. I know where it's going, and I know what needs to happen. And I think my part where I was stumbling with that, and I just put it away for just a little bit, is because of that character arc. And at the end of Rewritten, I feel like Gracie is in a good place, kind of emotionally and internally, and so I've been really kind of struggling to think of what does she need internally, what is her journey really about, deep down kind of at its core, and as she grows as a person. So that's kind of what's been tripping me up, because I don't want to fail at that, and so I'm definitely taking my time, I think, to think about it before I keep working on that book. I really want to kind of get that figured out.
Yeah, that was always a stumbling block for me. I thought my first novel was going to be a series, and it just didn't work. I just couldn't do it. After I'd written the first book, I tried to write. I think I wrote the second book 2 or 3 times, I think, different tries at it. And I finally realized, you know what, I'm just going to walk away. I think I'm going to do something different, because it just didn't, I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to get
okay.
Pardon me?
I think that's okay. It's like sometimes you're just like, oh my God, you're so caught up in the fact that I need to write this, or I'm supposed to write this. And it's not coming. You know, it's just not happening for you, or it doesn't feel good. And so sometimes you just got to say, you know, I'm good, and walk away.
You do. And it's a tough decision, because you don't want to be a quitter, right? You don't want to, like, you know, start a draft and then not see it through. But at the same time, there comes a point in a manuscript, like that was my thesis. I mean, does anybody publish their thesis? I don't know. But anyways, I certainly did not. I worked on it for 2 years, and I finally thought, no, I am going to walk away. I'm just going to put this down. This is not working. And I can't stand it anymore. And yeah, and I mean, I've never been tempted to pick it up again either. So I feel like that was probably the right decision. But I feel like you can't, if you're going to work on something, like a novel takes so much effort and time and thought and emotion and everything. You better love it. You know, if you don't love it, then that would just be horrible. It'd be torture.
Yeah. Well, it's exhausting. Like, writing is exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's funny, after all, I kept, like, you know, writing, like I'd come up with an idea and then I'd start working on it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just not into this. I'm not loving it. And it wasn't, you know, it took me a while to finally find, like, the catalyst that, you know, sparked that. Oh my God, I think I found that new story. And so I think, you know, just sitting down and feeling like if you're forced to write something, it's just not going to happen. And if it does, it's going to be very wooden, kind of, it's not going to feel right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember one of my teachers talking about that. It was Gail, actually, who we mentioned before, had said something about how, you know, after that first book, like, hopefully you already have something underway, because it's like she said, you know, sometimes you go through like a period of depression, because it's almost like a death or a breakup or something, because you've lost this thing that you've been working on for years. Now you don't have it, and you have to find a new one, and nothing is, you know, ever the same.
It's terrible when you finish a draft and it's actually finished and it's like gone to the publisher and whatever. That's a terrible moment. It really is. Unless you've got something else on the go, I feel like it's exactly what it's like, a death. Yeah, it's awful.
Oh my God, I cannot believe you guys are saying this, because this is the weirdest thing. Like, after, you know, I'd worked on this for so many years, and then it came out, and then I went through, you know, all that promo stuff, everything that you're doing, and it's just like this whole thing. And then all of a sudden you're just like, it was depressing. Like, it was, you know, I didn't feel motivated to write. And I'm like, oh my God, am I ever going to find that joy of writing again? Yeah. And I finally just was like, you know, and then I got an agent, like, right after, you know, it was just all of a sudden I got an agent and I had this and that. But I was like, oh my God, I don't feel like writing. Like, it just, something inside me was like, not there yet. And so it wasn't until like the last couple of weeks where I was like, I think I'm ready to do this again. But it took a while. It's I
do think we have to be sort of gentle with ourselves in that too, because I feel like there are seasons to this. Like, you have your burst of energy where you know, like, you work on this book and you give it everything. And I mean, it's like a couple of years at least of your life, right? It's an all-consuming thing. Right. And I almost feel like you need a little bit of space after that, where you just kind of like, you're not working on anything. Maybe you're reading, maybe you're just, you know, like going for walks or whatever it is. And you're just giving yourself that space to kind of be between projects and not, I don't know. Like, I mean, I've been in that space too. And it is concerning, because you sort of think, wow, like, am I ever going to be this? Like, this is a little bit scary. This is sort of what I depend on. Right. But I feel like everybody I know goes through that, where you have that sort of desert period where you're not, nothing's happening. But I think that things are happening probably beneath the surface, but on the surface, it feels like you're empty. You know?
Yeah. Oh my God, this is like therapy. Because I have been like, it's been a really weird thing where I'm like, I have had, there was like a huge stretch where I just had no desire to write. Like, I was like, I'll read, I'll do anything. I'll clean this house.
That's when you know you're in trouble.
I will sort socks before I sit down and write. And it wasn't literally until like the last couple of weeks, and I messaged my critique partner, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm back. Like, it's, you know, I think I'm back where I'm like sitting down with my cup of coffee and like I'm sitting down and working on it. And when I'm going on a run or I'm going up, I'm thinking about it. Like, I'm thinking about it again. Where before, when I was like walking or whatever, I was just like, you know, listening to Taylor Swift and going, I'm a Swiftie, I'm a Swiftie. But it's just like nothing was happening for a long time. And it was concerning because I love writing and I had lost like the joy for it for a while. It was weird.
I think you need that sort of buffer period. I don't know, like I know that Julia Cameron talks about that in her in The Artist's Way. I think she calls it like filling the well. And I think that that's a really good way of thinking about it. It's almost like you need, it's like you've given so much of yourself to one book that there's nothing there anymore, and you need to take the time and just sort of absorb life again, and then you're ready to do it all over again. I don't know. Do you feel that way too, Tara?
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting too, because like I think it happens with every book, because I experienced that after the first book, I experienced that after rewritten too, but like I think, you know, even more so probably after, you know, when you're new and it's your first book and you start feeling that way, because writing has changed so much. There's like all this pressure, right? Like now there's like expectations. And I think before we're published, it's like, it's just that like, that need for like, almost like that validation seeking. It's like, okay, once the book comes out, everybody will know I'm a real writer and it's going to be easy from here on out, you know, but like, you know, then the book comes out and now there's all this pressure and there's all this expectation. And it's like, for me anyway, I just miss the days when I could just go write and talk to my writing group and I didn't have, you know what I mean, all this other, you know, pressure and not even pressure, but you know, there's the whole business side to writing that I didn't.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
And it goes from being like this joy-filled thing where you're just like, oh, I'm doing this because it's fun and I can sit down and create this, you know, story. And then it goes to, you know, a business. Like the realities of it come in, and then you feel the pressure that, you know, you've got a publisher that's published your book, and now you know, you owe them, like, you know, to be out there and working it and like promoting it, doing this and that, and then you're watching the numbers, and then, you know, all of a sudden, like, it really consumes you. And so then when it's over with and you're just kind of like depleted, and so it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm. It is. Yeah.
I think my touchstone, and I'm checking to make sure we don't have any questions, but I think my touchstone that always brings me back is reading, because I think like even when I can't write, I think reading always gets me excited about the writing. And the more I read, I'll be like, oh, I want to do that. I can't wait. I love that story. And usually for me, that's the sign that I know that what I'm reading is like a really good book, because I'm like, I'll put it away because I have to go write something, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if a book inspires you to sit down and write, then you know that it's great. Yeah.
That's good. Well, you guys, this has been fun.
Yes, I know. I was just looking at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 6 o'clock already. Like, I felt like I just went through therapy and learned a bit about writing.
This has been awesome. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah, well, it's so nice to meet you.
Yeah, Michelle, you and I. We're good friends now. I love Tara. Like, you were like, I always knew that I loved you, but then when I got to meet you at Nerd Camp, I was like, oh my God, I love her so much. You were like you were my favorite thing about Nerd Camp.
You were my favorite thing about Nerd Camp too. I knew I was gonna like you because we had like corresponded online quite a bit, and then I remember that first day we went back to your hotel and just sat and drank wine off the little patio, and it was so fun.
Wait, just before we go, just like you don't have to recap the whole thing. What was the murder mystery again? Like,
oh, well, I'm not going to tell. I'll tell later.
It's the story that you're doing, right?
Working on it. Yeah, it's nonfiction, and I'm still investigating. I've
made
progress since the last time we talked. I have a suspect.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's very.
Oh my God, yeah, that was so much fun, and we're doing the virtual Nerd Camp, which is, you know. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm so.
But it's just not the same. Boo-hoo.
I know. And Michelle was supposed to come down for our book launch too. So like when this is all over, we'll have to all get together. And
we should. That was so fun. Yeah.
Well, and Michelle, if Canada ever lets us back in.
I don't know.
I know. You know, we're those people.
It's even
to you.
Yeah, I'm sure you will, and you'll never leave.
All right, you guys, this is fun. Thank you.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Well, thank you guys so much. This was so fun, and thanks to everybody for watching. So I'm gonna go ahead and I will take us off Facebook Live, and I hope you guys all have a good day. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, see you.
Bye.